Would you mind stepping up to the mic?
Sure.
Just so we can hear
30
you.
minutes, that's all.
Let's keep it on Willie. Or you want to say something?
Yeah, so just, you guys just spent a good amount of time with Willie and got the opportunity to spend the year with him. I think it's pretty clear to everybody now why we were so excited about him. I watched our games, these last 8 games in particular. We had sort of a sense of joy, gratitude, and optimism kind of all together. And Willie and his staff are really at the core of that. It's really a joyful thing to watch from our position in the front office, a group come together and grow in the way that Willie and his staff did, our team to grow in the way that they did. We came into the year wanting to play meaningful basketball games, and that was going to be the mark of success. So I think by every other metric, you'd have to say this was an incredibly successful season. But based on the fact that we got 8 postseason games and 3 elimination games, what that's going to do for us in terms of jump-starting our future is just almost unimaginable coming into the year. And certainly when you're 1-12 and 3-16, it's absolutely unimaginable. The gratitude that we have for our players, really working through everything authentically every day, who they are, contributing what they did in the way that they did, the passion they have for each other, the passion they have for our city. We had to start this year in Nashville because of the hurricane. And at that time, I told many of you, these were the best group of human beings I'd ever been with before, on and off the court. And I think you saw that play out right in front of all of us on a very big stage. And that's something that we're incredibly joyful about. We're really, really grateful that we had that opportunity. And I think we have optimism that we've got a whole lot more in the tank. And this isn't a situation where we feel like, okay, we've proven it. There's a lot ahead of us, and we have a lot of optimism that we're going to be able to achieve some great things. It starts with Willie, and then it goes to Brandon Ingram, who I don't know any player that has announced their presence with the level of authority he did in the playoffs. That was what y'all saw there was really special. It's a 24-year-old kid who's just coming into his own. That man is going to be somebody to deal with for a very long time, and I hope people understand exactly how special his run was. Obviously, CJ contributes mightily to that. You make 9 straight playoff runs. You're doing something right just starting there. But he was exactly what we needed in every way on and off the court. His fit with our group as a human couldn't have been better. Larry was the same. And they just jumped right in with our group. It was obvious Willie and his staff had us moving in a direction that they wanted to be part of. When we spoke to CJ prior to the deal, he was excited about coming even before he got here because of what he had heard from our players and from others about Willie and about our situation, about our environment. And that environment is set by Mrs. Benson and her team, what they enable us to do. They've given very freely of themselves, both emotionally and obviously financially, but they've put us in position to succeed, and they've done it in a way that there's no boundaries in what we do here. We literally get to love each other everywhere, and in a way that I've never experienced before in the NBA. And I think this is my 28th NBA season and the 25th in basketball operations, and this was just a really special run with a great group, and we're grateful that by and large that group gets to stay together. I think as we went through these COVID years, you saw an awful lot of turnover and things. There was a lot of upheaval in the offseason. I think you're going to see an offseason this year that's a little calmer, and I think we're going to build through continuity and through growth from within to a huge degree, and that's exciting to us because this group they're just scratching the surface of what they can do.
Zion said emphatically that he wants to be here and that he'd jump at the opportunity he said he couldn't sign it fast enough if offered an extension. Where does that process stand with you guys right now, and how would you describe his level of buy-in?
So I think his level of buy-in, he just told you, right? So I don't really need to describe that, I don't think, but I'm grateful that he understands exactly what he's witnessing. He was visibly moved in the locker room last night, as the whole team was. And so we're grateful that he, along with the rest of the group, have bought into what we're trying to achieve. I said the very first press conference we ever did here, that we wanted to build a team that was built in the ethos of the city, that gave themselves to the city in the way that the city gives themselves to us. You know, the resilience that Willie has instilled in this group is special. It's really, really, really unique. And I think it represents what the city came to love about this team. There was a never say die attitude about it. You're either all the way in or all the way out, and we're going to continue to invest in people that are all the way in, and I'm grateful he's part of that.
And from the beginning, you've talked about the importance of character, culture in the locker room when building the roster. What was it like just seeing what you guys had with this team this year?
It's hard to really explain, and we've talked a lot about, some of us have talked about this quite a bit, but watching Josh Hart and Nickeil Alexander-Walker the day they were traded come watch their brothers and want to hug each other again, that's one of the most gratifying things I've ever seen. And to know that that culture is what we're carrying forward, to know that the flamethrower that Willie and his staff have created emotionally and spiritually here is what we're taking forward, it's almost impossible to explain. You know, you watch Jose Alvarado, he's out there, he looks like a gladiator. He's playing to the crowd in a way that the crowd literally is living off of his energy and vice versa. The symbiotic relationship that this team and our fans had, it's really, really unique. We've been to, Willie and I talked about it earlier, we've been to several conference finals and won a championship. No crowd has done what that crowd did last night for that team. The shared hope and joy that exists between our players and this fan base is phenomenal. And Jose and Herb are just such a huge part of that. I mean, you're talking about two rookies, a second-round pick and an undrafted free agent, who have T-shirts of their own. They might be more marketable than anybody else on the team. So it's a really rare thing. The word special gets overused, but I dare you to find another group that's ever done what this group has done the way they've done it. And it's because Willie never changed. He was the same all the way through.
You said we saw what you saw in Willie this year, but when you hired him, you didn't have any of that evidence. What convinced you that he was the guy?
Well, we had several hours talking to him, for one, and you can feel him. It doesn't take you long to feel his presence. Mm-hmm. The faith he brings to everything he does. I mean, you've been with him. Willie vibrates at a different frequency than other people, and that's it's a really rare, unique trait. And trying desperately not to use the word special, but it's about the only thing I can think of.
You add a healthy design to this roster. What's just your early read on how the pieces fit together?
Yeah, I mean, obviously when we made the trade to bring CJ here, we were envisioning a healthy Zion being part of that. And so if you think about what his game is, and frankly, he's sort of just scratching the surface of what he'll be too. He was historically efficient playing back to the basket one year with one coaching staff, and then historically efficient playing as point Zion next year with another coaching staff. So to see what this staff is able to do with the talent that we'll have together, you've got a 21-year-old all-star returning, hopefully healthy, and we've got a 24-year-old all-star. We've got a 30-year-old leader who absolutely is going to be an all-star. We've got Jonas, who played at an all-star level. It's hard not to be excited about the group, but more than anything else, it's who they are. It's the passion they have for this and for the mission that's really exciting.
What does the process for Z at this point look like? I know he's obviously getting close to 5-on-5. You say hopefully healthy. What is the next steps for him?
So I think we're probably a couple of weeks away from the last round of imaging that we hope we have to do. And that would be when we cross the bridge of, okay, he can do what he wants to do in terms of getting ready for next season without any limitation. If it's 2 a day is great. If it's 3 days, great. His workload won't be monitored at that point, we hope. And at the same time, we've gotten to a point before where we felt confident that was coming. So we have to be realistic in that situation too. So really it's going to be about, let's put him in the best position to succeed physically heading into next season. And I think he's committed to that based on what he told you today.
David, you said that continuity and maybe an easy off season is hopefully in the future. Do you start conversations with Zion about an extension? Is that part of making it easy? How does that all work?
Well, if I said easy, I certainly did not mean easy. Continuity and a lot of change not happening doesn't mean you're not doing an awful lot of things that are not easy. And obviously that conversation is going to be one that will be a challenging one. And when it's time to have that, we'll have it. And right now what we're focused on is him being healthy and in kind of elite condition to play basketball, and we'll start there. And I think once we get to that point, all those conversations get a lot easier. CJ is eligible for an extension. That'll be a conversation that takes place. Larry Nance Jr. is eligible for an extension. That'll be a conversation that takes place. The only thing that makes it easy is that everybody wants to be here. And that's a real blessing, because we kept saying that was coming. And to see it play out for everyone now, it's beautiful. You know, the team building process is quite often what's underwater is more important than what people are seeing above water. And I'm really grateful that we sort of propelled out of the water now to the point where you can see all the work that was going into it. Because there's an awful lot of people that contribute really mightily to what we do. And Trajan Langdon and Bryson Graham on the scouting side, finding what they did in those young kids, really understated how important that is. Those guys run an amazing draft process. We ran a really good free agency process this offseason. Shane Coverman and his team and the strategy side did amazing things. So we're grateful we've got a team off the court that will be able to navigate this offseason. But having continuity, at least, it limits the field of what you're trying to achieve, which is important. When you're trying to plug holes everywhere, it's a much more difficult process.
How rare is it to go into an offseason with 14 guys under contract for next year, plus a lottery pick?
Well, that's good and bad, because it limits the range you're going to have to be able to convince people we've got an opportunity for them too. So it's harder, right?
Right.
So in some ways, it's more challenging to have this many roster spots filled, and on the other side, it's something that you have great optimism about their development. And if their off-season models what we achieved this past off-season, will be in really good shape.
You
Did
mentioned
the Lakers trade work out better than you could ever imagine?
Well, I think it'd be disingenuous for any of us to tell you we thought the 22 Laker pick would be a lottery pick. We didn't anticipate that. We felt like the best value in the deal was further out. So we got very lucky. And as is often the case in our business, it's better to be lucky than good. And if you can be both, you can achieve something. And so we're grateful we're a playoff team that's holding a lottery pick. It's a highly unusual thing. But I don't think anybody from Trajan down, I don't think any of us believed the 22 pick would be one of those. So we got lucky there for sure.
And you mentioned Herb and Jose. Just how impactful was that rookie class this year, and how important are they going to be as you continue to build out this foundation?
Yeah, I mean, again, when you've got players that contribute at that level in a playoff rotation on those contracts, it certainly gives you a level of sustainability that Willie spoke to. You know, we wanted to build a sustainable model, and in large part because of Herb, because of Trey, because of Jose, we've got that model now that we'll be able to continue to add to the group while we get key rotational production from guys that are on good contracts. But the thing that's the most important about that is what they're giving us as human beings. They literally are fueling the energy in this place. And so they're going to make everybody around them better. That's highly unusual. I was joking with a couple of you around the trade deadline. We were the only team in the NBA that had an untouchable two-way at the time, an untouchable second-round pick we had just made, an untouchable first-round pick we'd just made. People, when they would call, they're like, Griff, your whole roster can't be untouchable. You're not even a playoff team. Well, now we're a playoff team. And I think people understand why those young men were so untouchable. The spirit they bring to this. Billy Hernan-Gomez is a non-rotational playoff player. And we refuse to trade him at trade deadline because of what he gives the group. And so it's just a highly unusual group of humans that are fun to be around.
The Saints 17 draft class was phenomenal. 5 years later, would you think at some point maybe you look back and say, that was a group for us that was kind of like that maybe?
Boy, I hope so, Ed. I mean, that would be, for them to win that much would be phenomenal. You know, the Saints are a winning machine, and the culture that they had in place was one that we absolutely wanted to emulate. If we can have the draft success they've had on an ongoing basis, we're going to be awfully good. So if this turns out that this class is looked back on as that, that would be wonderful. At the same time, oftentimes draft classes are viewed as success early, and they're not. And they're viewed as not successful, and they turn out to be. And this takes a very long time to really know what you have. So we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We know we've got the right human beings, but there's a lot of work there to be done in terms of knowing whether or not a pick is successful or not successful.
Based on the development that those guys made, how exciting is it to know that you have a 99.6% chance of having a top 10 pick and could even be in the top 4 this year?
I'm knocking my head to avoid the 0.4%. It's phenomenal. I mean, it's a really special thing for us as an organization to be able to go into Chicago feeling like we really have a chance at a lottery pick as we head into the combine and the draft lottery night, et cetera. Swin Cash is probably not aware of this, but she's going to be up there. It's always better to have a Hall of Famer on stage than anything else. And I'll see if I can man the back room perhaps. But it's just an exciting thing to think about, adding that level of talent to a group like this. And the thing that we've proven we have a really good ability to do is identify character. I think we've found guys that fit our group well. So to think that we could potentially add the right piece to this group in a form of a young player like that's exciting.
Do you take any, like, even small moment by yourself? I know you said you worked in other places where it felt inorganic, and you talked about doing it the right way here, and it wasn't always easy, but now it seems like you're on the right path. I know you're not where you want to be yet, but do you, at any time, even privately, just kind of smile and say, it's coming together like I wanted it to?
Well, crying last night a little bit with Willie certainly was fun. We've done the same. Trajan and I have spent a lot of time together talking about where we're at. Swin is a huge part of what we do. What Swin Cash does with her team off the court is almost mind-numbing to me in terms of how it contributes to what we're building. And we talk about those things just in terms of what we've done right, what we do that makes us unique. It's nice when players that have been in other teams and multiple other teams will tell you that this is the best run group they've been around. They love the way our organization functions. That's really cool. You take some solace in that. But at the same time, if everybody wrote about us that we were the greatest thing since sliced bread, that's not true either, right? So we're going to be judged by our results. So when things don't look particularly good, you're grateful that we have ownership that was patient and fans that were patient, some of them. And I think you're also grateful that we've got fans that are as passionate as they are. And now that things look better, we have to be mindful of the fact that this is a really fragile business, and we were the 9 seed for a reason. We were 10 games below 500 for a reason, and there's still a lot of work to be done. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Griff.